Hey guys, in the previous video we covered the topic of readme files. I explained what readme files are and I shared some tips and tricks on how to make effective readme files. In this video what we're going to do is we're going to actually put content into readme files because well that's what readme files are all about, right? Remember, readme files are a place where you tell to the world about your project. So that's the goal of this video, to tell what our project is all about. And we will do it by covering some of these objectives, which is we will talk about the project goals, we'll talk about the test goals, framework goals, some of the working principles, some of the important files and tool sets used. And the way I want to do this is when I was trying to make notes on covering all these topics, I realized it is going to be becoming a long video. And even if like I try to copy paste those notes, I think it is still going to be long video because I'm going to talk about them. So I did not want to waste like more time of yours by typing all that stuff here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy those notes, put it here, we'll briefly talk about them and then move on to the next topic, right? So let's do it. So let's get rid of, let's first start with the very first section, right? Talking about a project. So these are some of the lines which I wrote. And let me put it here. So Zero is our feature-rich core test automation framework that can be used as an underlying automation framework for any kind of test automation frameworks. So irrespective if it is APIs, browsers, mobile, in the past I automated things like RabbitMQ, it does not matter. Any kind of projects you should be able to just fork this project and you should be able to build your project on top of it, right? So that's the project goal, number one thing. Number two, some of the working principles. Let's talk about some of the working principles. So if you actually see, there are only two working principles that I'm working with. And number one is a problem solving based learning approach. If you remember, every topic that we have covered so far, it started with a particular problem, and only when we hit the problem we came up with a solution, right? So that's our principle number one. Number two is we follow this approach of first making it work and then making it better. And of course, like if I already know how to do something better, I will start with that particular viewpoint. So I will not try to make it ugly. But let's say in general, if you're trying to learn a new tool or a new technology, the approach that has always worked with me is first make it work and then make it better. So that was like our another working principle. Then let's talk about some of the test goals and objectives. So like this is a topic in which, like, depending on what you want to write, you can write a lot of stuff, but I still try to keep it short because otherwise it will become too big. And these are some of the test goals and objectives which I mentioned. So like if I put it all in one line, it is test the right things in the right order at the right time. What it means is whenever you start with a new project, the first thing that you want to do is you want to do some sort of a risk-based analysis, right? So and based on that analysis, you want to identify which areas you want to test, which areas you do not want to test, which are low risk areas, which are like third-party tools which you do not want to test, and you should identify the scope of work. That's like testing the right things. The second thing that you want to do is like test in the right order. A generic thing that you can follow is you can follow test pyramid, which says first focus on unit tests, then on integration tests, API tests, system tests, and then end-to-end tests, and exploratory kind of test. Now, of course, this is more of a generic thing, generic guideline, but if any of your application is undergoing change, that becomes your number one objective to, let's say, test first. The third principle which I like to follow is fail fast, fail early. And what it means is if you can prevent a breaking change from merging, try to do that. So for example, in case of APIs, API tests are faster, they are more stable. So it is possible to run them as a part of continuous integration, and you can actually prevent breaking changes from merging. So if you can do that, always do that. If you cannot prevent the breaking change from merging, well, then your goal should be to test it at the next best opportunity, which is, let's say, when something gets merged into your project's develop branch, right? So for example, in case of mobile apps, browser apps, The tests can be slow, they can be flaky, irrespective of what you try to do. So the best opportunity is to test them immediately after something is merged into develop. The reason why we don't want to run them with PRs is because, well, if your tests are flaky, and if your dev team is not able to merge a PR because, hey, your failing test failed the build, then well, they will not appreciate it too much. The third thing is, if you're not able to prevent a breaking change from merging, if you're not able to test it like immediately when the breaking change is introduced, the next best opportunity is to test it ASAP. Like if you want to test a new feature, if you want to do a bug fix, you don't have any automated regression test for it, well, then try to test it as soon as possible, so that your developers can get a quick feedback, and yeah, they can fix the tests quickly. So these are our test goals and objectives. Now let's talk about our test framework goals and objectives, which is what is more related to what we are doing here. And the test framework goals and objectives are, again, you can have many, but I try to drill it down to 7 of them. And these are, you want your test framework to be easy to understand, right? By separating test intentions from implementations. You want it to be easy to maintain by separating your data, configuration, code and test. You want it to be easy to scale, because like eventually your project will grow in size, and there are some tips and tricks that you can use. For example, you can prefer composition or inheritance, so follow solid principles. And then of course you want to bring down your total execution time. There are some things that we can do over there, like creating atomic independent tests that can run in parallel. You want to test at the right moment. For example, I already explained above, so by using different CI workflows, you should be able to test different things at different moments. Eventually your goal should be to have reliable, robust tests, because if your tests are not reliable, well, they will stop adding value, people will not trust them, and it does not matter what you're doing then. So you really want to focus on making your test more stable. The last point is to have flexible tests that can run on any test environment. Like if irrespective of you want to run your test on localhost or in a develop environment or in a staging environment, you want your test to be flexible enough so that you just point to a particular host and your test should easily run on that particular host. So these are some of our test framework goals and objectives. Now this brings us to our next topic, which is to talk about some of the important files. Now, even though files in themselves, they're also sort of solving some problems, but I like to have a separate section for them because these are like very standard files, and it's good to dedicate a section to them all by themselves. So for example, we already saw one of the files, readme files. This is where you talk about what your project is all about and how others can make use of it. So we already covered this, so let's put an X mark against it. So this is done. And then you have some other files like JUnit platform properties files. This is what we're going to use because we're going to use JUnit in our framework. Don't worry about it, we will cover each of these topics in detail. So for now I will just mention them. We'll be using log4j properties file for mentioning different log levels. We will use an application config file and other config files to achieve the flexible test. We're going to use gitignore file, and this, by the way, I think can be next best topic, and I'll tell you why. We have git attribute files. We have editor config file, which basically helps us have a common configuration, common formatting configuration between people. You have a POM file, which is where you define all your Maven project dependencies. We have a license file, Docker file, Docker ignore file, Docker compose file. We will cover all these topics in detail, so that's why I'm not going much into them at this point of time. So let's just try to cover other set of topic which is also very important, and that is adding tool sets. So let's add a list of tool set to our project. So what we're going to cover in this series of videos, in upcoming videos, is these are all the tools that we will be touching upon. So we'll be using Java as the core programming language, Maven for dependency management, JUnit 5 for assertions, SLF4j and log4j for logging interface and as a logging library, TypeSafe for application configuration, Surefire for XML reporting, Surefire Site for HTML reporting, GitHub for version control. Like if you see, we already have now GitHub, so this is already done. GitHub Actions, so that's something that we'll cover in the future. Faker library for generating random test data. We'll do a Slack integration with our project so that every time something happens on GitHub, we get notified for it. We will add Elastic and Kibana for test monitoring. This is a very powerful topic, and I think you don't want to miss this one. We will add Docker for automating our test frameworks environment. If possible, I will also try to show you how you can use PowerShell and Bash to automate building of test environment itself. And then we will talk about adding SonarQube, SonarLint for keeping your code clean and safe. And then we will add some badges to get a quick view on, how your project status looks like. Now, irrespective of what kind of framework we use, these topics are going to stay common. And this is what we are also going to cover in our framework in this project 0. Now, you can use this core framework in any of the other frameworks. So, for example, the next project that I have in my mind is to build a project on automating REST APIs, and you will see that that particular project will fork from this project. It will use all the good stuff that we're going to do here, and we will use it for REST API automation. And if time permits, and if in the future I'm able to make more courses, I will be able to make more courses on Selenium and on Appium, but everything will use the same core topics that we're going to cover in the upcoming videos. We can leave the end-to-end test automation process as is, because that was one of the first things that we covered, and it gives a good overview of how everything fits into place. We can also probably add some references, and then I think we are good to wrap up this topic. We already covered test goals. We already covered test goals, toolset, so we can remove this. We already covered all these topics. Let's just add a reference topic, and then I think we are good. So I gave some references on the readme Wikipedia that we saw in the last video, how to write some good readme files, some other examples of adding readme files. And this is a topic which you want to grow as and when you have something good to share with your audience. So I think that's it. Now I hope you have a good overview of what we're going to cover in the upcoming videos, and it gives you good confidence on what all you can cover by watching these videos. And every time we cover a video, we will put a check mark in front of it, so that you know that, oh, this is done and this is what is remaining. So if you like this, please like to my channel, please subscribe to it, and I look forward to see you guys in another video. See you. Bye bye.